and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and today we're going to be having a look at a Gameweek 9 wildcard team that I think is going to work really, really well for you in the upcoming game weeks. And not only that, if you are not on a wildcard, I still think this is a team you need to be roughly aiming for. Now, I know we've got quite a long time until the Gameweek 9 deadline comes around, but there is going to be a lot of price changes in the next 10-11 days. So if you are planning a wildcard, it might be wise to hit that button sooner rather than later. Let's have a look at this team. But before we do, please do make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you are new around here as well. Okay guys, so I've taken some feedback on from my previous wildcard videos and I've made a team that is basically pretty cheap. I know a lot of people were saying, you know, the teams that I was building for wildcard that cost 100 million or more, a lot of people couldn't afford those, and I understand that that's quite distressing trying to work out things like that. So what I'll do, I'll start off with the most basic team possible. There are going to be some players missing from this team or some possible upgrades that some of you might want to make, but for those of you guys who don't have the budget, unfortunately, this is going to be the kind of team that you'll be looking at. And we'll talk about some upgrades at the end of the video as well, and potentially other areas we can go to. So yes, it's a wildcard team for 99.5 million. That is going to be within hopefully all of your budgets. If not, I kind of feel bad for you. But let's start off in goal with Turner. Yes, Turner is going to be the goalkeeper you could go for this game week. Luton Town at home for now. Turner has kept his place. He's staying in net for Nottingham Forest, and he's still doing pretty well. Another clean sheet in game week 8, so a continuation of Nottingham Forest's good defensive form. We quite like that. So we would be expecting a clean sheet in that Luton Town game. Now, after that, the fixtures do get a little bit tougher. So you would be looking to play your backup goalkeeper, who is going to be on the bench there. But in terms of Turner, if you don't want to spend 4.1 million on a goalkeeper, I can also recommend Strakosha from Brentford. He is going to be deputising whilst Flecken is out for, maybe a month or so. So, yeah, there is another option at 3.9, and that's Strakosha. We are going to speak about him in another video later on in this week, but just another suggestion for you there if you're just looking for a short-term goalkeeper to tide you over for a short amount of time. Let's move on into defence, and we have got Trippier. Yeah, I've come back down on the Trippier fence in terms of saying Trippier. Yes, I know a lot of people are kind of looking at some alternatives, trying to, free up some budget by removing Trippier from their teams, but the more I think about it, guys, like, Trippier is just an irreplaceable player in your team. Like, you cannot find another defender who is going to get you as many points. And I feel like that was kind of epitomised when we saw in game week 8, despite the fact that Newcastle conceded 2 goals to West Ham. Trippier still came away with 2 bonus points in that game. All he got was 1 assist. And that's not because, the bonus system is broken. It's that Trippier is a player that suits the bonus system really, really well. Because he's so creative, because he's so good at what he does, he picks up those bonus points really, really nicely. So whenever he gets just 1 attacking return or just 1 clean sheet and no attacking returns, he is going to get bonus points as well, which is going to make him so good value at 6.8 million and really make the difference between the likes of him and your 4.6 million Newcastle defenders. There is a clear difference there in the right situations, and most games are right situations. We look at this next fixture, Crystal Palace at home. You would imagine a clean sheet would happen there. Trippier is going to get bonus points just for the clean sheet alone, but throw in attacking returns in there, and, we're talking about a player who can haul it in any given game week. Now, Trippier has always created a lot of chances, but what we're seeing from Newcastle this year is that the forward players are being far more clinical than ever. Newcastle are looking really good, and Trippier is enjoying the FPL points as a result of that one. So, for 6.8 million, he's a bargain. In general, for a defender, he's very expensive, but I still feel like he'd probably be one of those priority picks for me. Let's move on to the next defender. It's going to be Matty Cash at 5 million. So a little bit expensive, more expensive than he has been in the past, but it's not too late to go in on him at all, because after the West Ham game, which I think is a little bit tricky, might be some goals conceded there, we've got lots of opportunities for clean sheets. Luton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, but more importantly, perhaps opportunities for attacking returns as well. We're seeing Cash playing very high up the pitch, playing in those dangerous areas, looking to shoot and create as well on that right-hand side. We even saw him play essentially as a winger in the last game, in game week 8. He was essentially playing as a winger, so that was kind of good to see from him. So there's going to be lots of opportunities with Matty Cash, and I really love the look of his fixtures from game week 10. Now, for a lot of these players, it is game week 10 where the fixtures look a lot better, which is why a lot of people talk about a game week 10 wildcard might be slightly better. But if you are going to go in on now, you probably want to start preparing for those game week 10 onwards players, and I feel like Cash is definitely one of them. And we're going to finish off this defense with a player who, I don't know, some of you guys are going to like it, some of you guys not so much. It is going to be Gabriel, and yeah, obviously that is a player who has caused some drama, some troubles earlier on in the FPL season, but he seems to have nailed himself back in the Arsenal team, which is really, really good. But the great thing is, he is now down to 4.7 million. That is an insane bargain. Now, of course, Arsenal, after keeping a clean sheet against Manchester City, are putting up some incredible defensive numbers in general. In fact, the underlying numbers suggest that Arsenal are the second best defence in the Premier League. So, getting a defender or a goalkeeper from them could be a pretty nice idea. And in terms of finding the cheapest one, well, the answer is right there for you. Gabriel, 4.7 million. Now, in addition to that, Gabriel does okay for bonus points, but he also has a decent amount of threat from those set pieces. He's a real set piece machine. Could get some headed goals here and there. And we look at some of these fixtures. Chelsea, they don't score too many goals. Sheffield United don't score too many goals. Neither do Burnley. That Newcastle game is a bit of a banana skin. But aside from that, a top quality defence like Arsenal, you would expect them to keep clean sheets, potentially get bonus points for Gabriel. And obviously, there's always that small chance of an attacking return from a set piece. And if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle. You've got to be in it to win it and make your own luck. And that's what Gabriel is going to hopefully do in a lot of FPL teams. Really like the look of him at that cheap price of 4.7 million. That is an absolute insane bargain that was born from the troubles that we all had earlier in the season. Let's move on into midfield. Of course, we've got to start it off with Mo Salah at home against Everton next. Nottingham Forest at home after that. And then after that, obviously, we have the big game against Luton Town, which I'm sure a lot of Liverpool player owners are licking their lips about. But yeah, a decent fixture run for Liverpool, as we all know. We are going to all be looking to target Salah. I still don't think Salah is 100% like essential right now. If you're just using your transfers and it's going to take you a -4 and sacrifice a lot in your team and difficult to restructure, then I probably would think twice before getting Salah. I would still consider it, but I would think twice about it. But if you're on a wild card, Salah is going to become like pretty important in FPL once again pretty soon. He arguably already is. So you are going to want to get ahead of the game if you're wildcarding in 9 and get him in your team nice and early now. Everton will be looking to park the bus in this game, but Everton away from home, Everton at Anfield, it doesn't usually go their way. It doesn't usually go to plan. So you still would imagine Salah would do very, very well. If you're not going to captain Salah in the next couple of game weeks, I don't think he's essential unless you're on a wild card. I feel like this is your opportunity to get him into your team. Essential on a wild card, but kind of a very good pick, but optional if you're not on a wild card. But we'll throw him in there anyway. Maddison is going to be the next player. So yeah, we are going for Maddison in this team rather than Son. And I'll try and explain why that is. First of all, I'm trying to trim the budget on this team. I'm trying to make it, as affordable for as many people as possible. Obviously, you could upgrade Maddison to Son if you wanted to. But I look at this run of fixtures, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Chelsea and Wolves, and I kind of think this run of fixtures suits Maddison a bit more than Son. We've seen already that Son really thrives in those situations where he's playing against a high line rather than a low block. And although Fulham are, I don't know, I wouldn't call Fulham a low block team really. And I feel like Son could actually do quite well against Fulham. After that, we've got Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Wolves. And I feel like these games are not so Son suited. Maybe Chelsea could do okay there, but Crystal Palace and Wolves, I wouldn't be too confident about Son against those teams, even if they are kind of easy fixtures on paper. Maddison is much more of a player who can get, set piece assists or set piece goals or shooting from outside the box when the opposition is packing their box full of defenders. He's going to have those kind of opportunities, slip those passes through in those tight little areas as well. So yeah, I do think that these fixtures suit Maddison quite well, so he would be an option to keep long term. But I also would consider kind of using a Maddison or a Son as a 1 week punt and then moving them onto Saka in your team. I don't know if I'd pick Saka up straight away for game week 9. It definitely is an option. But to have Maddison now and maybe swap him to Saka in game week 10 or game week 12, one of those, 10 or 12, I think that could be a pretty nice idea to do that, because obviously Arsenal play Sheffield United in 10 and Burnley in 12, both at home. So that could be pretty nice for the Arsenal players. So Maddison is a 1 week punt while Arsenal play Chelsea, who are a very, very tough defence, and then maybe switch it over to Saka or, maybe Martinelli or Ødegaard if you prefer those guys as well. You could even look to double up in the upcoming game weeks there. But the problem is with this team is, and game week 9 in general, is there are a lot of players you'd want from game week 10 onwards, and that includes Arsenal attackers, it includes Brighton attackers as well. You could arguably say some other teams that you probably want more from next game week rather than this game week. But you've got to pre-prepare for it. You really do. Next up, we are going to have Bowen in the team. He's in some great form. Couldn't really do too much against Newcastle, but that's not really surprising. We kind of all saw that one coming. Newcastle a tough team to play against. But we have got some decent fixtures coming up for them. So we've got the likes of, Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Burnley. We've got some okay fixtures. And I feel like there is going to be some opportunities here for Bowen to do the business. He's just putting up such good numbers. He's just a player in such great form at the moment. Playing as a central striker, despite listed as a midfielder in FPL. There's a lot to love here, and I can see him being one of those players when we enter this really nice run of fixtures for West Ham. He could be one of those players that everyone wants, everyone owns, and I feel like one of the advantages to a Game Week 9 wildcard is that you'll probably be more likely to go for a player like Bowen now, rather than Game Week 10. Those kind of wildcarders will be more likely to go for a Saka here, or, maybe a Diaby or a Mittelmar or someone like that in this slot. But Game Week 9 wildcarders, you've kind of got an excuse to go on Bowen. Whereas in the future game weeks, when you're holding Bowen through this run, he could actually even end up outscoring the likes of Saka and Mittelmar and players like that. You never know, do you? It definitely could happen looking at Bowen's form right now. So yeah, Bowen, a nice little pick for a Game Week 9 wildcard, I think. Next up, we're going to go for Diaby in this team. Obviously, we know very well that Aston Villa have great fixtures coming up, but I think West Ham at home suits a Diaby more than it suits a Cash. It's a nice fixture if you're an attacker. West Ham putting up some pretty poor defensive numbers so far this season. I do think Luton is a good fixture. I do think Fulham is a good fixture as well. That Nottingham Forest away fixture I don't think is as good as a lot of people are making it out to be honest. But around that, we've got some really nice fixtures for the Aston Villa attackers. So, yeah, like I've said, like last game week, when we're talking about wildcarding in Game Week 9 or Game Week 10, whichever one you're doing it in, I would be looking to triple up on Aston Villa, and the triple up would include Diaby, particularly now we know he is going to be fit and available from Game Week 9, which is good news. And one more player in midfield for Game Week 9 is going to be Neto, another player you probably wouldn't pick up in Game Week 10 because of that Newcastle game. But if you go for a Game Week 9 wildcard, or if you're looking to make transfers in Game Week 9, Neto has Bournemouth now, Sheffield United in a couple of weeks. You've got Spurs after that. That's another decent fixture for an attacker. And a few more good fixtures after that as well. Wolves have got a decent little run here, so Neto could be the man. He seems to be consistently returning. He's very cheap at 5.7 million, and although originally in this team I had Gordon here, I actually had Anthony Gordon in this team because I thought, well, Gordon, he's coming back from suspension, surely Gordon is the guy to go for, right, if you're looking for that cheap midfielder. And I kind of dug into it a little bit, watched some clips, looked at the underlying numbers, and kind of came out and looked at the fixtures, of course, as well, with Bournemouth and Sheffield United either side of that Newcastle fixture. I kind of put it all together and thought, you know what, actually I think I prefer Neto. I genuinely think I prefer Neto. It's more likely to get bonus points in lower scoring games for Wolves. The fixtures are nicer, and his underlying numbers are better as well than Gordon. I feel like he's much more nailed on than Gordon. I feel like Gordon is relatively nailed on, but you can imagine in certain games Gordon could get substituted off early, or we might see the likes of Murphy come in, or, Isak playing on the left wing with Wilson in the central striker. So there is going to be opportunities for Gordon to be benched and rotated. Whereas for Neto, it's not going to happen. He's going to play every game. He's the best player at Wolves, isn't he? And I feel like everyone kind of recognises that at this point. Could also go for Hee-Chan here if you wanted to. Hwang Hee-Chan, obviously in pretty good form himself. Another player I'm going to speak about in next video as well, because I want to go in a bit more detail on some of these differentials. And Hee-Chan is definitely one of them that is worth talking about. So we'll save that for another time. But for now, let's move up front. We're going to have Erling Haaland. Now that Arsenal game is out the way, the next three fixtures, for me, are good ones. We've got Brighton at home. Brighton concede every single game. They always look like they're not quite there defensively, and they've got so many fixtures that are all completely exhausted as well. So that's going to be a great opportunity for Haaland. We've got Manchester United, who are obviously out of form. That's the next fixture after that. We've seen what has happened with the likes of, Salah and Haaland in the past playing against Manchester United. Everyone says, oh, Manchester United, it's going to be a tough game. But then these players score a boatload of FPL points because, Manchester United, they're one of those teams, right? They're one of those strange teams in the Premier League right now. We've got Bournemouth after that as well, which is, obviously one of the best fixtures you can have in the league, particularly at home, and that's going to benefit Haaland as well. So He's going to be back with a bang. He's missed some opportunities to get FPL points recently, but I think he's going to be back. I think he's going to be back, and I feel like anyone removing him from their team might start to regret it from here on. Obviously, you know, the Arsenal game, I understood why you wouldn't want to have Haaland for that game, but now, I'm not so sure about that one. And we're going to finish off this team with Watkins. So yes, I have managed to build a team that fits in Trippier, Salah, Haaland, and Watkins. The sacrifice really is, you know, the likes of Son or a Saka, which I feel like, you know, you can still get to those players quite easily. You know, by using your transfers in future game weeks, particularly. I mean, if you've got more budget than 99.5 million, you know, let me know in the chat. I want to hear what your team values are at roughly, because it'd be good to know. If you could afford a bit more, then maybe you can. But as a kind of base level, hey, this team is very, very, very strong for the price that it costs, especially as we got all those big hitters in that we like. You know, Trippier, Salah, Haaland, and Watkins. Son, last game we would have said he was essential ahead of that Luton game, but after the Fulham game, the fixtures do look a little bit worse for Son in general. So I feel like now the priority players have kind of shifted just a little bit, haven't they? Again, maybe another benefit of Game Week 10 wildcard is. Yes, but Watkins, he is going up front. Obviously, he has been very, very consistent. We've got some great fixtures coming up next, starting with West Ham, then the likes of Luton, Fulham a couple of weeks after that. It's going to be very, very nice for the whole of the Aston Villa team. So get that triple up done. These are the three players I'd be looking to target ideally. This is my perfect Aston Villa triple up. And obviously, if you're on a wild card, you can get that perfect team that you really, really want, can't you? So Watkins obviously is going to make the cut with all the hype around him at the moment as well. But maybe a small shout out to Darwin Nunez. I feel like he is maybe a player you could go for. Possibly Isak, but I'm a bit worried about both of those players' minutes compared to Watkins, who should be relatively nailed on for a lot of minutes every game. Bringing up the bench, guys, we've got Areola. He's going to be our backup goalkeeper, probably coming in for most games after this one. So he'll probably play 10, 11, 12, and Turner will go to the bench. We've got Charlie Taylor, 3.9 million, pretty decent price for a regularly playing Burnley left back. It's okay, isn't it? Branthwaite, he's only 4 million. He seems to be playing every single game for Everton at the moment, so that's looking pretty good for him. Everton actually have pretty decent defensive numbers, despite the fact it hasn't really gone well for them in general so far, but picked it back up with a decent result against Bournemouth. Hey, you never know. This could be Everton's season turning around. And we've got Mubama because he's 4.3 million, and that is really cheap. So, super weak bench. Kind of. I mean, Taylor and Branthwaite are playable assets in certain games. Some of you guys would be looking to upgrade that bench. If I was to upgrade personally, I would probably upgrade Branthwaite up to a 4.5 million Crystal Palace defender, because Crystal Palace defenders rotate actually really, really well with Aston Villa. And with Gabriel as well. So when Matty Cash has those tricky fixtures, and when Gabriel has that tricky Newcastle fixture in Game Week 11, I believe it is, at that exact moment, that is when Crystal Palace have their good fixtures. So a Mark Gahey, a Tyrick Mitchell on the bench, that could work really well. Or if you've got that extra bit of money, maybe an Anderson at Crystal Palace could work as well. But he's a little bit more expensive at this point, isn't he? So yeah, if you do have the budget to have that bench defender, that is where I would go. Wouldn't be looking to upgrade any further than that though, personally. So, with that said, let's throw a captain's armband on Erling Haaland. I'm expecting him to be back and doing well against Brighton. And obviously, we'll put the vice-captain on Salah because, you know, he is the original king of FPL, isn't he, really? So, yeah, Haaland captain, Salah vice-captain. And let's now suggest a couple of changes that we could potentially make to this team. Okay, guys, so you know the drill by now. We're on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool, just a really, really useful tool for planning out your FPL team, what it's going to look like in future game weeks, managing your budget, and building wildcard teams in the first place. This is where I tend to do all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to check this tool out for yourself, you can for free using the link in the description. So do go ahead and do that. But we need to have a little look at this team and what kind of changes we can make. So first of all, I did suggest we could maybe upgrade Branthwaite to a Gahey, or like I said Gahey or Mitchell. I think I would probably edge towards Gahey because he does pretty well for baseline bonus points. So yeah, let's throw him in there. Why the devil not? So he could rotate quite well. You can see if we look at his fixtures, game week, what is it? We're looking for cover in. It's 11 for that Newcastle game. again for Gabriel rotation, and then for cash it's 13 and 15 so the game weeks against Spurs away and Man City at home. So 11, 13, 15, and if you have a look at Crystal Palace's fixtures, 11 we've got Burnley, 13 we've got Luton, and 15 we've got Bournemouth. So kind of works out pretty well, doesn't it, guys? It was a really, really nice little rotation there. So I think that could work out. You know, even if you're on transfers right now, if you're like a Matty Cash owner and you feel like, I don't really want to play cash every single game week, you want to find an alternative, Mark Gahey, nice and cheap. You can definitely do things that way if you wanted to. So that's a potential upgrade there straight away. Another option is to just go straight in with Saka in this team. So rather than have Maddison, you just go straight in with Saka. You have Saka straight away for Game Week 9. Now, at this point, things do start to get a little bit more expensive. You've added a little bit more cost to your team. Some of you guys are going to be able to afford that, and that's going to be perfect. You're going to be in a really good situation, but that is definitely an option. You can still, you know, take Gahey back down to Branthwaite and just have Saka in. One thing I would say is that I think there's a strong possibility that Saka drops down to 8.5 million before the next deadline. So it might be worth, even if you're on a wild card, holding off on bringing Saka in and actually waiting to see if he does drop in price to 8.5 and just pick him up for that slightly cheaper price. It's going to be a nice little advantage for you guys there to do that. Obviously, it's not an ideal game against Chelsea, but after that, we move to game week 10, and this team is going to look really, really, really strong. So we've got most of the big hitters. The only players you would perhaps be missing in this team would be some kind of Brighton coverage. And if you're looking for Brighton players, let's search Brighton, go by 4-game week prediction. Yeah, we're looking at the likes of Misselmark, March there as well. I don't think Estupinian is going to be back for that game week. I feel like Estupinian could be back for the following game week against Everton in game week 11, right? Or maybe even 12 against Sheffield United. So maybe he also comes in at a certain point, because I look at these fixtures from Game Week 10. These are really nice fixtures from a defensive point of view. And although Brighton are just not the best defence, you never know. When you've got some good fixtures, you know, you never know when you're going to sneak a cheeky clean sheet in there. And obviously, Estupinian has amazing attacking ability there as well. So, yeah, this is kind of what the team is shaping up to be like. You could also go for, you know, could possibly go for Lamptey at 3.9 in the Taylor slot and maybe rotate him in here and there. But I think Lamptey, it's just because of his injury issues he's had in the past, he's never going to be a regular player. As soon as Estupinian comes in as well, Lamptey's going to be pretty much useless to you. So it's up to you, but I'm not really too keen on doing that personally. So yeah, at this point, you kind of have some decisions to make. You could bring in Mittelmar for the likes of Neto or Bowen. You can make maybe some double switches here and there. You're going to be kind of limited on where you can go and what you can do if you spend too much money on your bench, particularly if you're going for the likes of Saka. But if you've got a little bit more budget, I think it's workable. If you want to save even more money and try and think even more, okay, I really want to have a load of Arsenal players, which are kind of expensive, then you have to make probably one more sacrifice in this team, and the next sacrifice to make would probably be one of Trippier and Watkins. Now, Trippier, you can save loads of money by getting a much worse player, which is fine. You know, you save a lot of money, you get a worse player in exchange. That's fair. With Watkins, however, you don't save as much money by saving him, but genuinely, there's a lot of decent forward options around. I mean, you can maybe take a punt on Jesus. Darwin Nunez, I still feel like could be a decent kind of pick. Probably from game week 10, though, if I'm honest. I maybe wouldn't want him from game week 9. But from game week 10 onwards, I kind of like the look of him because I feel like he could get rotated in that Everton game as he comes back from international duty. Alvarez is always going to be on the menu, isn't he? And we've got a few other differential players who I do want to talk about in the next video, and we're going to be talking more about differentials. But I do think there are genuinely some other decent options in the forward slot. But Watkins is definitely your safe pick, isn't he? So, look, you can't have everyone. This is something that we just have to deal with. Sacrificing Son helps a lot. It really does help a lot from here on out. But aside from that, guys, you know, you can't have everyone. And maybe Trippier is a player you would like to have. Maybe Watkins is a player you'd like to have. Maybe you'd like to have someone different. But I feel like this provides a really nice kind of base level, a nice template to start off with, a starting point for building that team. And it's a really strong team as well. So I really do like the look of the kind of wild card I've made today, as well as with the slight changes I've just made to it now, these kind of mini adjustments. I just recommend you guys go in and do a similar thing. Just take a nice template, a basic structure, and then have a little play around with it. Who can come in and what game week. This is another reason why I love this tool, because we can just go, okay, so game week 10, I want to bring in Saka. I can go then game week 11, all right, what transfers do I want to make in game week 11? Okay, maybe I want to take out Bowen here and bring in Mittelmer at this point, and I'll make that change there. And you can kind of see how your team develops and changes over the course of the game week, and what kind of plans you can come up with as well. So, yeah, that's basically it for this video. Let's go quickly to the outro. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy, please do make sure you drop a like. Really does help out the channel. And we are, of course, on the road to 200,000 subscribers now. So make sure you are subscribing if you haven't done already. I might have mentioned this already, but the next video is going to be a differentials video. So stay tuned for the differentials video. Looking forward to sharing with you some of my my research on that one. Already started off because I'm just so excited. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again. And I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.